The Morrison Government will spend $804 million to strengthen Australia's presence in the Antarctic over the next 10 years. Australia will dispatch high-tech drones, helicopters, planes and snow vehicles to the region to push back against China and Russia's expansion in the region. Joining us live now is Antarctic ecologist from Queensland University of Technology, Dr. Justine Shaw. Dr. Shaw, appreciate your time as someone who's been keeping a close eye on these things. Was Australia at risk, do you think, of losing its foothold in Antarctica without this funding boost?
I think this funding today has guaranteed that Australia will continue to have a presence and be able to do amazing science in Antarctica. So the funding is essential to continue the good science that Australia's been doing in this space for many years.
And what has been the focus of the science that our Australian researchers are doing there?
So Australia's been a leader in environmental science, and that's a really critical thing that's needed in Antarctica at the moment. There's also a large marine science program, a large ice sheet modelling and understanding current and past climate in Antarctica, but also in terms of biodiversity and what species are there and how do they survive in Antarctica and where do they go to. So Australia has a massive part of claim to Antarctica, that large piece of Antarctica on the eastern part of the continent. And the research that's done there is pivotal to understanding Antarctica in a global context.
So over the period of time that you've been researching this region, have you seen that ecosystems are changing there and changing at a rapid pace?
Definitely. So the impacts of climate change are happening in Antarctica. It's not a matter of if, it's happening now, and we see that. We know that the human activity is increasing in Antarctica and the risks that puts on Antarctic biodiversity and the species in Antarctica, threats of invasive species, pollution, all these things are increasing. So I've seen that in my lifetime, and that's why it's really important, this investment in ongoing environmental protection in Antarctica, particularly the conservation science work that I do with my colleagues at QUT and other universities around Australia in partnership with the Australian Government is really critical to ensure that Australia can stay a leader in the environmental protection of Antarctica. And Australia is a leader in environmental stewardship in Antarctica. We know Antarctica was declared a reserve for peace and science. And Australia has again and again in that international forum stepped up and put forward really good environmental practice and done science to inform how we can better protect and continue to conserve Antarctica going forward in light of all those threatening processes which are increasing.